What's going on, guys? Recon Jack here with my Week 9 team build versus Steven in the Detroit Enteis. Steven has the potential to bring the Mega Blastoise, Bisharp, Arcanine, Cofagrigus, Hitmontop, Scyther, Licky Licky, Kyurem Black, Whimsicott, Mesprit, and Mienshao. So we're going to hop into this with my first Pokemon. Obviously, it's going to be that Smirgle. He's going to be carrying the Focus Sash with Own Tempo, rocking the Sticky Web, Protect, Parting Shot, Gunk Shot, 220 HP, 252 attack, 36 speed with an Adamant Nature. So let's cover the move set real quick. Sticky Web, obviously, speed control is going to be huge for me, in my opinion, in this match to outspeed things like the Mienshao, which is most likely going to be Scarfed, the Kyurem Black, um, depending on what kind of set the Arcanine is. And the one thing that I am worried about is the Defiant Bisharp, but I can deal with the Bisharp with a Mach Punch from a Hitmonlee, so that's not too big of a concern for me. He is able to spin webs away with his Hitmontop, but I still think it's worth bringing to deal with some of his bigger, his faster threats. Um, the Protect, that's just a scout, and the Parting Shot, I do have enough speed investment to outspeed things like an uninvested Mega Blastoise. Um, so that'll just give me some momentum, so that also it helps me set up with my Kingdra. And the Gunk Shot, that is for a lead Whimsicott. So there are three things that I can see him really wanting to lead off with on his team. Those being the Whimsicott, the Mesprit, and the Mienshao. The reason I think that is that I think that he knows that I'm going to bring the Smeargle, and those three things kind of shut down Smeargle because Whimsicott can bring the Taunt, Mesprit can bring the Magic Coat, and Mienshao can bring the Fake Out. There's not much that I can really do against the Mienshao except for Scout and Protect, which will get rid of his Fake Out hit, and then I can switch out appropriately. The Mesprit, if he brings that as his lead, I'm going to allow it to hit me, knock me down a sash potentially, and then I'm going to Parting Shot it, and then I can switch out from there. And if he brings his Taunt Whimsicott, that's pretty much the only thing that I can really kill with my Smeargle with a Gunk Shot. So that's what that's there for. And now let's move on to that second Pokemon, which is gonna be my Hitmonlee. He's rocking the Salt Vest with the Limber ability, Close Combat, Mach Punch, Stone Edge, Poison Jab, 244 HP, 252 attack, and 12 speed with an Adamant Nature. The Assault Vest plus HP investment really allow me to tank hits from that Kyurem Black and from the Whimsicott. This is a really good counter to Stun Spore Whimsicott, which he's brought before, and I'd rather not get paralyzed because this is going to help me, or Hitmonlee plays a really big role in this match. I don't think he's going to bring the Intimidate Arcanine because of the Heatran. So unless he brings his Hitmontop, there's nothing that's going to be intimidating my Hitmonlee, and I want it as bulky as possible, taking as much hits as possible so it can put in the maximum amount of work. With the Sticky Webs up, this thing is outspeeding a majority of Steven's team, and it's hitting extremely hard with close combat. The Poison Jab obviously is for the Whimsicott. Stone Edge is for the Scyther. Obviously, I'm not going to stay in on a Scyther, but if I can catch it on the switch, I can still do a huge chunk of damage to an Eviolite Scyther with the Stone Edge. The one thing that I do have to worry about is the Cofagrigus, because I cannot touch it. But this thing is not made to take on Cofagrigus, and if that comes out, I'm switching out. That I don't care if he predicts that. Yeah, it sucks. I don't have knockoff. I would like knockoff. I could knock off Scyther. It's Eviolite over Stone Edging it, but in the end, I think Stone Edge is more important to have. Um, and as I said before, Mach Punch just obliterates the um, Bisharp, and close combat is like my answer to his fat ass licky licky. um, Obviously, I can't be. I'm not going to be doing too much to the Mesprit, and as I said before, the Cofagrigus, but it's not made to take on those things. So overall, just a bulky, like a tanky kind of variant to Hitmonlee. Next up, we got my Heatran, rocking the air balloon with Flash Fire. He's carrying the Fire Spin, Flash Cannon, Ancient Power, and Toxic with 172 HP, 252 special attack, and 84 speed with a modest nature. Um, Again, the speed investment allows me to outspeed the majority of Steven's team, Unscarf team, especially with the webs up, or with the webs up, not especially, with the webs up. Uh, I wanted that. I wanted to hit as hard as possible, and then I dumped the rest of my EVs into HP. Now, you might ask me why Fire Spin over something like Flamethrower or over Lava Plume or over Fire Blast. I'm not going to be doing any damage with Fire Spin. This Heatran is my intended switch in for Cofagrigus because my team doesn't really handle that Pokemon too well. I want to be able to trap it with Fire Spin and then Toxic it. Obviously, it's not going to be able to Toxic me. It's not going to be able to Will-O-Wisp me. Unless he's an offensive variant with something like HP Ground, he's not going to be doing that much damage to me. And I can trap him with Fire Spin, start whittling him down with Toxic, and then just start Flash Canning away. Flash Cannon, obviously, that's for the Whimsicott. I can hit the Kyurem Black with that. And then the Ancient Power, I'm rocking over Earth Power because he has things like Mesprit, so I'm not going to be hitting that. If I bring Earth Power, he has a Scyther, obviously Ancient Power. That's that's 4 times super effective versus an Earth Power, which wouldn't even hit Scyther. Yes, it's going to do less damage to the Arcanine, but in the long run, Ancient Power helps my coverage a lot better than Earth Power would. And then Toxic, it's obviously I can Toxic anything on his team aside from the Bisharp. Alright, next up we got my Mega Gardevoir rocking the Synchronize with Hyper Voice, Psyshock, Wish, and Protect. Just a standard EV spread with 252 special attack, 252 speed, timid nature. The Hyper Voice and Psyshock really allow me to just blow back a majority of Steven's team, except for things like the Bisharp. But even the Bisharp, actually not even, the Bisharp does not want to take a Hyper Voice whatsoever. Unless he's carrying something like a especially defensive variant of a Pokemon, this Gardevoir is going to be doing a fuck ton of damage with Hyper Voice. Psyshock can hit anything else. I'm kind of worried about the Licky Licky. If that thing has Toxic, it can Toxic stall me, depending on what kind of EV spread it has. But I do have the Wish Protect to try and to give my Gardevoir some longevity. I don't really need any other coverage moves besides the 2 that I already have, and I was really debating on what I wanted to bring, what other moves were going to fill those 2 slots. I could have brought like the Will-O-Wisp, I could have brought the D-Bond, I could have brought just some coverage, like some damaging coverage move. But I figured that the longevity would really help me out here. Also, the Protect is nice because it allows me to get off my Mega at the speed at the unmega speed without taking any kind of damage. And then I have instead of a base 80 speed, I'm now at base 100 speed. So that helps with that as well. It also helps me to scout. and wish I can pass to anything I need to, or it's just for that, as I said, longevity. Next up, we got my Critdra, which I haven't actually brought to a match yet, but I figured that this was the perfect opportunity to bring it, mainly because a lot of his Pokemon are pretty fucking bulky, and I don't really have solid answers for a lot of his Pokemon outside of like this. So my plan really is to whittle things down as much as possible, come in with Critdra, and just sweep his team from like whatever remaining HP that they're at. So standard set, agility, focus energy, Draco Meteor, then Ice Beam over a water stab. Um, what do I have that for? That is for the Whimsicott mainly. Uh, Draco Meteor really deals with everything else on his team. A crit Draco Meteor deals with everything else on his team. And I want to be able to OHKO the Whimsicott, and I don't know, like depending on what kind of set he has, like even a crit from a water type move isn't gonna get rid of that Whimsicott. So I have 252 special attack with 196 speed and 60 HP. This allows me to outspeed a Scarfed Mienshao even after an agility, even with no sticky webs up. And obviously, I want it to hit as hard as possible, so 252 in special attack, and then I just dump the rest into HP. Last but not least, we have my balls, my Weezing, with the Black Sludge, Rockin' Sludge Wave, Flamethrower, Will-O-Wisp, and D-Bond with 252 HP, 100 defense, and 156 speed with a bold nature. You might ask yourself, David, why do you have only 100 EVs invested into defense? The 156 speed investment allows me to outspeed an uninvested Blastoise, or if he dumps like 4 EVs into his speed, I can still outspeed it. And my thought process behind that is that his true answers for my Weezing are either his Mega Blastoise or his Kyurem. Now, if it's his Kyurem, then I'm just kind of shit out of luck, and that's why I have my Assault Vest Hitmonlee. But if it is his Blastoise, one of the best ways that I have to deal with it is taking a hit from it, and then on the following turn, outspeeding and going for that Destiny Bond. So that's what that is there for, though. That is what this is there to do. It can also tank any physical hit from the likes of something like Mienshao or his Hitmontop, or his Scyther, or his Arcanine, or his Bisharp. It can hit a majority of his team for neutral with Sludge Wave. It just destroys his fairy, Grass Fairy, with the Sludge Wave. Flamethrower is just for coverage for things like the Bisharp, which I can't touch with the Sludge Wave. And then Will-O-Wisp, that's just good for residual damage against anything on his team, barring the Arcanine. It also will, obviously, it's going to hinder his physical attackers, so hopefully I can get that off during the match. His team is a real big, like, he has a pretty bulky team, and I'm actually kind of worried about this match. I'm not really sure I don't really have an idea of what combination of 6 Pokemon he might want to bring. He could bring the Bisharp to potentially Pursuit Trap a Celebi, or he could bring the Scyther, which can just also destroy my Celebi with like a bug type move. So I have to prepare for both of those Pokemon. His Licky, if my Hitmonlee dies before his Licky is dead, then I am up shit creek without a paddle. There's not much I can do to it, save for like a crit Draco Meteor, or a couple crit Draco Meteors, depending on his EV investment. The Mienshao I know is going to be a problem. I'm thinking that it's going to be scarfed. If it is a scarf set, there's like my team has a really hard time dealing with it, and I need the sticky webs up. Uh, the Whimsicott, this Whimsicott shenanigans are always just a pain in the ass, and I'm not looking forward to like facing that if he does end up bringing it. Kieran Black is a threat, although I think my team can deal with it properly. Um, and a Choice Banded Arcanine is also a huge problem for my team once once my Heatran is gone. So once that's gone, I do not have an answer for a Choice Banded Flare Blitz outside of my Kingdra. But like I don't want my Kingdra taking much damage. Also, when I was building this team, my Kingdra, this slot was like really up in the air, and for the longest time I was just switching between Kingdra and a couple of other choices on my team like Electros or Celebi. Um, I kept changing my team around over and over again, but I realized that this Arcanine was a huge problem for my team, and if I didn't bring the Kingdra, then a Banded Arcanine just ran train through my entire team. So at the end of the day, like I had to bring my Kingdra. Um, Bulky Blastoise is most likely going to be able to take something out on my team if I don't Destiny Bond with Weezing, which I'm still losing my Weezing, so basically, Steven can spin away my sticky webs with his Blastoise and his Hitmontop. He has like 2 potential Intimidators. Like his team is an issue for mine, and so I'm pretty nervous for this match. But let's just go over and hop into it and let's see what he brought. All right, looking at this team preview, I see that Steven has brought the Kieran Black, the Whimsicott, Blastoise, Mienshao, Cofagrigus, and Arcanine. I do not see the Mesprit, which means that there is no Magic Coat option, which leaves him with, in my opinion, 2 pretty obvious leads. He can either go for the Taunt Whimsicott, or he could go for the Fake Out, or just straight up U-turn Mienshao. So I'm going to lead with my Smeargle, and we're going to scout to see what he does. Okay, so he ends up leading with the Whimsicott. I immediately think that he's going to taunt. In my team build, this was something that was on the forefront of my mind as one of his lead Pokemon, but I'm still going to scout with my Protect to see if he's just going to want to U-turn out of here. So I go for that Protect, and he does end up going for the taunt. So this next turn, I'm just going to go straight for the Gunk Shot as he goes for the Prankster Stun Spore. Which, well, I'm not going to ruin anything just yet. Just know that I was pretty salty during this match, and I'm going to try to not let it affect me in this post-com, but we'll see how it goes. So he gets the Prankster Stun Spore off, and I miss my Gunk Shot. Oh, fuck. That is the first chance that I had to kill this Whimsicott, and obviously the RNG gods decided that they wanted to keep this Whimsicott around to make this an interesting match. So the Whimsicott lives, and here I predict that he's just going to go for the U-turn, so I end up going for the Sticky Web. He does end up U-turning out, and he U-turns into his Blastoise, and I get fully paralyzed. So I miss my Gunk Shot, and I get fully paralyzed in the first 3 turns of the game. It's not looking good for me. RNG gods smiling down on Steven and laughing in my face, but you know what? It's still pretty early in the game. I know I can come back from this. At this point, my Smeargle is useless, and my Sticky Web strategy is it's not gonna happen anymore, unfortunately. So I just kind of have to sack off my Smeargle. I don't really want anything taking any sort of hit from this Blastoise. I didn't really think he'd go for the Aura Sphere because any hit would take out my Smurgle. If I had thought that he'd do that, I might have gone out into my Gardevoir on the Aura Sphere, and it would have done like dick for damage, but Smurgle drops and I bring out my Gardevoir. Here I'm just going to go for the Mega with the Protect as he decides to switch out into his Arcanine. I kind of want to scout out what this Arcanine can do to me, so I'm going to go for the Protect again as I see that he goes for the Iron Head. At this point in the match, I'm not sure if he's banded or not, so I switch out into my Weezing and he goes for the Iron Head again. Here, I keep saying I need to run Calcs, but I refuse to run Calcs. I could have seen if that was banded damage or not, but I know that Weezing can take any hit from this Arcanine, and if it's banded, if it's locked right now, I don't know if it's locked into Iron Head or not, but I know that I can take hits. I don't mind the Will-O-Wisp, so I'm in here with my Weezing, and he decides to switch out, which doesn't reveal to me what kind of set he is, so he could still be banded in my mind, or he could be. I learned that he's a defensive set, and that was defensive. Especially defensive set, and that was an uninvested hit on my Weezing, which is fine. But I end up going for the Will-O-Wisp because I knew he was going to switch out into something, and really a burn on any of his Pokemon would be nice. He doesn't have means to get rid of it outside of like a Lumberry, so that residual damage is going to help on anything. And I catch the Kyurem Black, which is a great Pokemon to have residual damage on because that thing can be a problem. Obviously, I'm not going to stay in against this monster right here, so I switch out into my Heatran. I know I'm on that Air Balloon, so an Earth Power won't hit me. He wouldn't go for an Earth Power anyway unless he predicted me to switch out into my Heatran. But he ends up just going for that Draco Meteor, which isn't going to be doing much because I'm a Steel type and I resist it. But he does pop my Balloon, which is kind of a problem. I mean, kind of a problem. It is a problem if he's running that Earth Power. So I switch out into my Weezing, predicting the Earth Power, but he just switches out into his Blastoise. Now, this was like a kind of unintentional matchup at this point in the game, but it is the matchup that I was looking for. I did, as you guys know, make this Weezing to counter the Blastoise, which I thought was one of the potential Pokemon that he'd want to send in on my Weezing to knock it out. That or either that or Kyurem Black. But I did EV this Weezing to make sure that I outsped and uninvested Mega Blastoise. So I'm going to let him hit me with the, I think he goes for the, well, I go for the Sludge Wave, it doesn't really matter, and he goes for the Water Pulse. He knocks me down to 70%. I know that he's just going to go for the kill here, and since I outspeed, I can just go for the Destiny Bond, and it's going to take care of this huge, bulky threat on his team. And down goes the Mega Blastoise, and I think that's a pretty fair trade in my mind. I don't know if I would have wanted to save the Weezing for anything else, maybe the Mienshao just to have as like a switch in, but I didn't really want anything taking hits from a Mega Blastoise. So I guess at that point in the game, I still thought that was like the best thing that I could do, is just sack it off there and get rid of the Blastoise. Anyways, I send in my Mega Gardevoir as he sends in his Whimsicott. And I'm just going to go for the Hyper Voice here, but I get fully paralyzed. That is the second time one of my Pokemon has gotten fully paralyzed. If I had not, that would have been a dead Whimsicott, and I'm letting it get to me in post-com right now. But this Whimsicott is really causing my team a lot of problems, because not only did I just get fully paralyzed so the Whimsicott isn't dead, but now I'm slow as fuck, so he can bring in anything he wants and pretty much destroy my life. Oh my god. So, okay. So this is kind of like a misplay on my part though. Yes, his Whimsicott has been putting in the work so far in this match, but I did bring the Hitmonlee with Limber, and what Limber does, for you guys that don't know, is it it says that the Pokemon with Limber cannot get paralyzed. So I knew he was going to go for the Stun Spore here. He had nothing else that he wanted to do to me. But he's not going to taunt me. He's not going to... I mean, he could have U-turned on me, but that probably wouldn't have been his best play. Obviously, he's going to go for the Stun Spore. All I needed to do was bring in my Assault Vest, max HP Hitmonlee. Even if he went for the Moonblast, I'd be living that, because this is a supportive Whimsicott. It's not Specs, so my Assault Vest plus max HP plus the 110 base special defense, the natural bulk of Hitmonlee is going to allow me to live a potential hit from Whimsicott, and I wouldn't have gotten paralyzed. So that was just a fuck up on my part. But no, instead, I get paralyzed, I get fully paralyzed, and Whimsicott is still alive. So, balls to me. So he goes for the U-turn and brings out his Arcanine, and I just go for the Hyper Voice again, and I do no damage because this is a specially defensive Arcanine. I want to see what he's going to do here, so I'm going to go for the... no, sorry, I switch out into my... what's it called? Heatran, knowing that he's going to go for the Iron Head. And if he does go for the Fire type move, then I'm going to soak that up with Flash Fire. I was just hoping there that he didn't go for the close combat, predicting my Heatran, but at that point I really didn't have a choice. I didn't want anything to take a choice banded hit from the Arcanine besides the Heatran, and if he went for the close combat, then I mean, that would just suck to suck. But then I could set up on it with my well, actually no, then I'd bring out my Hitmonlee and destroy it with that. But anyways, he goes for the Iron Head, and I just go straight for the Toxic, as he does reveal that he is not a choice banded set because he goes for the close combat. But because of my HP investment, it does not knock me out. So he gets the defense drop, special defense drop, and he's Toxic now. Unfortunately, I'm not carrying the Earth Power. As you guys know from the team builder, I did bring Ancient Power over Earth Power because of things like that Scyther that I wanted to be able to hit. So that's my play here. I go for the Ancient Power, and unfortunately it leaves him at 17%. Not enough to bring him down, and he does end up bringing me down with the close combat. I switch in my Gardevoir here. At this point, he's either going to hit me with an Iron Head because I get fully paralyzed, or he's going to go down to Toxic damage with me sitting unscathed behind a Protect. I do break through the paralysis and get my Protect up, and he does drop to Toxic here. I'm still way behind the 8-ball because my Gardevoir is fully parried, and he brings in his Mienshao. I don't want anything to take a hit. I know he has the Poison Jab, and I know I'm going to drop to it, but there's nothing I can really do. He ends up getting the crit, just kind of salt in the wound right there. The crit didn't matter, and I know that from using Mienshao in the past, that Poison Jab would have taken me out regardless. But it was just annoying to see after the Parahacks, and then he gets the crit. And the Gunk Shot miss, and he gets the crit. Everything is going his way in this game, and I'm just shaking my head at this point. So I bring out my Kingdra, and I figure this is make or break. If he goes for the high jump kick, I know I can live one, but I have to set up here with my Kingdra, and I need the chance to get the agility up and the focus energy up. So he actually ends up switching out, which is perfect for me because that allows me to get that second setup move up without taking that first turn of damage. So I get my agility up as he brings in his Cofagrigus. And now I'm just going to go for the focus energy as he goes for the pain split. I'm not really sure why he decided to do that. He was probably just expecting me to hit him, and he was just going to whittle me down with pain split. he didn't go. If he had Will-O-Wisp, I'm sure he didn't go for it because he saw that I went for Agility instead of Dragon Dance, so he figured that it wasn't a physical set, which was the proper prediction. But I do go for the Focus Energy, and nothing happens with the Pain Split. So now I'm gonna go for the Ice Beam. I could have dropped a Draco here, and it would have guaranteed. It would have been a guaranteed takeout on this Cofagrigus. But if he predicted that and brought in the Whimsicott, I would have done. I would have rather had that Ice Beam off. And also, I know that crits ignore stat drops, but if somehow my crit draw didn't get the crit, then my attacks would be doing a lot less later on in this match, and I didn't want that to happen just yet. So I go for the safe Ice Beam, and I do like 64% damage, and he just goes for a layer of Toxic Spikes. And I go for the Ice Beam again, knocking the Cofagrigus out. He brings out his Whimsicott again, and he goes for the Stun Spore, lands it for a third time, and I go for the Ice Beam, and I take out the Whimsicott. So as soon as this happened, I realized that I am an idiot, and I should have gone for the Agility again, just to make sure that I could potentially outspeed his other Pokemon. But instead, my eyes kind of got like, my eyes were burning in my fucking head, and I just wanted to kill this Whimsicott that had dealt half my team like a killing blow with the paralysis, and I just wanted to see it suffer. I wanted to see it die. I didn't want it to hang out any longer than it had to. So I just go for the Ice Beam, and that kind of sealed my fate right there. Because yes, I did kill the Whimsicott, but now I'm not fast enough to outspeed his Mienshao. So you guys, like, you don't understand how frustrating this was. So his Whimsicott drops, and he brings out his Kyurem, and of course I cannot outspeed. So I'm gonna stay in. I don't want my Hitmonlee taking damage that it doesn't have to, and I drop to a Draco Meteor. And with this special attack drop, I know that I'm sitting in a pretty good position right here. I have the Assault Vest. I am max HP. Now the question is, do I go for the close combat, or do I go for the Mach Punch? I decide to go for the Mach Punch here. And I know that it would take out the Kyurem. And I know that I could live a hit from Kyurem. But he still has that Mienshao in the back. And if I go for the close combat here, and he stays in with his Kyurem, then I will lose because of the defense drop. And so he doesn't have to hit me with a high jump kick. He can hit me with like some other move to take me out. So I can't go for the close combat here, even if he decides that he wants to switch into his Mienshao. I have to go for the Mach Punch to try to preserve my defenses for the Mienshao. But he ends up making the correct play and switching out, and I go for the Mach Punch, and I'm only able to do 45%. So here I need a crit to knock out this Mienshao. A crit would really make up for some of the para hacks and that gung shot miss that happened in this game. But unfortunately, I do not. I actually get a low roll on that, and he is able to knock me out with a high jump kick. The salt was real in this match. I was incredibly pissed at the end of this, and but it is, I mean, it's part of the game that we play, right? So RNG is a thing. It does happen, and it's a strategy. And in a league, you got to do what you've got to do to win. And if that's if that is, oh, I don't think Steven was relying on the full paras each time. I think he was trying to paralyze like one thing, maybe slow something down. But if that's what you got to do to win, then that's what you got to do to win, and there's nothing wrong with that. So at the end of the day, it's a legit strategy. RNG is a thing that we play this game. We know that it's a possibility, and it just ended up being in his favor this match. So as salty as I was, like, I can't really, I mean, I can be mad, but I can't be mad at the same time. I do think I made the right plays throughout this match to put myself in the best position to win. Save for the Hitmonlee switch-ins I could have been making to avoid the paralysis, because I knew he'd be going for the stun spore, and I knew that, or I had brought Limber just for that, but I just, in the heat of the battle, I got tunnel vision and I completely forgot about it. So I think that was my biggest, in my opinion, like my only misplay this match was not switching in my Hitmonlee. But other than that, I do think I tried putting myself in the best position to win. Unfortunately, the RNG just wasn't in my favor, and Steven ended up walking away with the win over the Steel City Snorlax. Yes, I'm upset about this loss, but there's nothing I could really do about it. I don't think I could have played much better. So I'm gonna keep my head held high as we go into next week's match, and we'll just kind of see where it goes from there. GG Steven, you played well. That Whimsicott really destroyed my life. I'm happy that you brought Mrs. Miyagi, even though you named it something else. It's okay. I forgive you for that. I'm glad that it got its showcase, as well as Whimsicott, which is one of my top 6. Actually, Mienshao and Whimsicott are in my top 6. So I love seeing them in the match versus me. I love seeing what they can do, or I know what they can do. Yeah, good luck to everybody else in their matches. And for now, this is Recon Jack signing off.